US missiles to Ukraine, Europe's new defense moves, bold intel leaks, and a cyber strike deep in Russia. The geopolitical game is shifting fast. With Trump's pledges, Europe's cautious optimism, and Putin's silence, today's updates show fresh Western unity and growing concerns in East. This is The Gaze. Don't forget to follow our website, YouTube, and socials for more sharp takes and frontline reporting. The promised missiles for Patriot systems are already being shipped to allies. US President Donald Trump announced this while speaking with journalists. According to him, the munitions will be sent to Ukraine from Germany.
They're already being shipped.
From what countries?
They're coming in from Germany and then replaced by Germany, and in all cases, the United States gets paid back in full. So what's happening, as you know, is the European Union, if you look, mostly European Union stuff, but let's put it in the form of NATO. It's very similar. But NATO is going to pay us back for everything. In some cases, we're going to be paid back by countries of the European Union directly.
The United States must share the burden of supplying and purchasing American weapons for Ukraine, says EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy Kaja Kallas, speaking in Brussels. She emphasized that forcing Putin to end the war he started, to compel him to the negotiating table, is the ultimate goal.
We welcome President Trump's announcement to send more weapons to Ukraine, although we would like to see US to share the burden. America and Europe are working together, and if we are working together, this can put the pressure on Putin to negotiate seriously. The only way to get Putin to end this war is to force his hand.
Russia shows no desire for peace, despite the United States' willingness to engage in dialogue. That's according to, Reality and Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, speaking during a meeting with Austrian Chancellor Christian Stocker in Rome. She welcomed US President Donald Trump's shift in stance toward Putin, calling it a positive signal and a meaningful step towards restoring Western unity in the face of Russian aggression.
As you know, Ukraine has repeatedly agreed to unconditional ceasefires and expressed its readiness to sit down at the negotiating table. Yet, on the other side, we continue to see no progress. In fact, Russia keeps striking civilian targets, and these attacks are growing increasingly brutal and relentless, showing just how little Moscow is interested in the peace we all seek. This comes despite the Trump administration's openness to dialogue, which Putin has chosen to reject. Today, we're seeing a shift in the U.S. position, and we welcome that change.
Germany might buy long-range Typhoon missile systems from the United States, Defense Minister Boris Pistorius said during his visit to Washington. The Typhoon can fire missiles up to 2,000 kilometers, which means it can reach targets inside Russia. Pistorius said the system is only meant to stop aggression. The US is currently considering whether to proceed with the delivery. He also said US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was positive about the request during their meeting. For France, the absolute red line is Russian demands for the demilitarization of Ukraine, as Ukrainians must be able to ensure their own security. This was stated by French Defense Minister Sébastien Lecornu in an interview with French media. According to the minister, this is also a key issue for the security of neighboring countries. He added that the coalition of the willing allows Ukraine to consider the future structure of its army, while France reflects on opportunities for its defense industry.
Our absolute red line is the demilitarization of Ukraine. We must be consistent. You cannot deny Ukraine accession to NATO and at the same time agree to leave it without an army. Ukrainians must be able to provide for their own security. I want to emphasize that if we don't help Ukraine to protect our economic interests, we will be the stupidest in Europe if we don't take care of it. Sébastien Lecornu, French Defense Minister in an interview with Valeurs Actuelles.
Ukraine's main intelligence directorate, together with cybersecurity experts, launched a cyber attack on the servers of the IT infrastructure of a key Russian military supplier company, a supplier of UAVs for the Russian army. Sources in military intelligence confirm that the attack destroyed over 47 terabytes of critical data, including backup files. Internal systems were also blocked, effectively halting the factory's operations. The information obtained during the hack has already been handed over to the Ukrainian Defense Forces.
We took their mail, blueprints, and technical documentation, all the source code, accounting, and contracts, terabytes of documents transferred, and then we destroyed everything, several hundred servers and workstations, backups, and cloud infrastructure. The network was so thorough that the doors to the building were locked. To open them, the administration had to pull the fire alarm. Most likely, the production for the military is on the verge of failure, and thousands of drones will not get to the front anytime soon. From a post by the Ukrainian Cyber Alliance on Telegram.
On some front lines, Russian army attacks are just tactical maneuvering, while on others, it's a brutal grind. This was said by Pavlo Lakirchuk, head of military security programs at the Center for Global Studies, Strategy 21.
The fighting has been intense, especially over the past 2 months. The Russians are pressing hard with both numbers and quality. Across the 11 fronts where they attack, some assaults are tactical, while others are brutal grinding battles. The main enemy strikes where thousands of shells, FPV drones, other weapons, and air bombs are fired daily. From defensive actions alone, up to 1,000 Russian troops are killed or taken out of action each day.
Ukrainian engineers have created a new level thermal imaging camera capable of working in extreme combat conditions on the front line. As noted by the Minister of Digital Transformation, Mikhailo Fedorov, Ukraine is moving away from the paradigm of importing critical military optics towards its own production, which is forming a new reality on the market of military technologies, without imports dependency, with no compromises, and with an emphasis on full autonomy.
Thanks to an ultra-sensitive sensor, special calibration and post-processing algorithms, these devices provide clear images in darkness, fog, rain and explosions. They are not afraid of moisture and work even when submerged underwater up to 1 meter. The battle-tested cameras help the Ukrainian military in reconnaissance and target designation. We are changing the rules of the game in the market of military innovations to create even more game changers for the battlefield. Mikhailo Fedorov, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Digital Transformation of Ukraine, in Telegram.
Ukraine has received the first batch of Patriot armored personnel carriers from Latvia. 15 of the promised 42 units were delivered during Latvian Prime Minister Evika Silinis' visit to Kyiv. Thanks to its modular design, the Patriot APC can perform a wide range of tasks, from transporting infantry to being used as a command post or mortar launcher. With Russian military aggression looming on the horizon, Estonia is boosting its army budget by 17 million euros. Tallinn has signed a contract with the German company Rheinmetall to purchase defensive and offensive grenades, local media reports, citing official sources. Deliveries of hand grenades will begin in the second half of this year. Defensive ammunition is expected in 2026-2027, while offensive weaponry will arrive by 2029. These stockpiles are being increased in response to the current security situation, officials in the Estonian General Staff said. North Korea has received its first Russian Pantsir S-1 missile systems, and Russia is training North Korean soldiers to operate them. Additionally, Russia has transferred technology and equipment to North Korea for purchasing strike drones. Intel was shared by Kirill Budanov, head of Ukraine's Defense Ministry Intelligence Directorate. He emphasized that North Korea is significantly strengthening its military power, especially in the area of strike drones.
This Shahed drone is like a nomad. He went from Iran to the Russian Federation, and now he has already come from the Russian Federation to North Korea. They do technology transfer from Russia to North Korea. They are not transferring Shaheds, but technology, equipment, and so on. They are setting up production there. Pyongyang has also already seen the first Pantsir S-1 installations. They are already on combat duty there, guarding their capital. And the Russians are retraining Korean personnel. And soon the Koreans will be able to work autonomously with this equipment.
And here's a little something, maybe somewhat off top of the main topics, but certainly adds to the topic of war and peace in general, and maybe a bit in particular to your understanding of how this war works and how our world actually works, and who fears who.
Putin is afraid of the USA. General Kellogg arrived and there were no massive bombings for 2 nights in a row. This is a very interesting example. No heavy attacks this night and previous night. People are joking about it. Maybe we should give General Kellogg a Ukrainian passport and leave him here. Putin deliberately bombs civilians, but when the Americans are here, he doesn't do it. This means one thing. Putin is afraid of America. President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky.
Well, not just Ukraine. Russia is preparing to attack NATO. That's another warning from Ukraine's top military intelligence chief, Kirill Budanov, during a high-level meeting with U.S. presidential envoy Keith Kellogg. The latter was briefed on Russia's preparations for a possible war against NATO. Here's a breakdown of how allies are getting ready.
A full-scale military conflict in Europe is likely by 2030, and it will be triggered by Russia. This warning is outlined in France's National Defense and Security Doctrine Strategic Review 2025. According to analysts, although French territory is unlikely to be directly attacked, France is expected to become actively involved in military operations. The document anticipates a renewed act of aggression from Russia in the next 3 to 5 years, potentially targeting Ukraine, Moldova, the Balkans, or even NATO countries. The Baltic states, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, along with Poland and Ukraine, have already begun preparing for such a threat. These countries have decided to withdraw from the Ottawa Convention, which bans the use, stockpiling, production, and transfer of anti-personnel mines.
We are planning, to acquire different sorts, different types of mines. Anti-tank are, especially important. Looking at the Russian tactics, how we're using, but also anti-personnel mines, because Russian tactics means that they use live force in very, so to say, forceful and then quite efficient manner. So we are still, so to say, in the process counting how many, what would be the proportions of the overall package that we will acquire. So, but it will consist. It will take, a significant part of our overall investment. So, just in principle, saying that it's hundreds of millions for mines, for anti-tank mines, but also it will be part for anti-personnel mines as well.
Lithuania has already fallen victim to provocation by the Kremlin and its proxy, Belarusian dictator Alexander Lukashenko. On July 10th, a drone crossed into Lithuanian airspace. The Lithuanian State Border Guard Service reported that the aircraft, spotted near the Kenskas border outpost, resembled a small plane. It was identified as a Russian Gerbera drone, an unarmed decoy model designed to mislead air defenses.
This incident shows that the possibility of a drone entering Lithuanian territory is real. Whether Lithuania is ready to defend itself against such drones, and whether it has the necessary capabilities remains an unanswered question. I continue to call on Lithuania and countries in the region that are working on the so-called Eastern Border Security Plan to go beyond physical barriers. In my view, the creation of a drone wall must be included in such a plan. Andrius Kubilius, European Commissioner for Defence and Space, on the air of LRT TV.
Neighboring Poland has temporarily reinstated border controls with Germany and Lithuania through August 5th. The reason? Ongoing provocations by Belarus, including a migration crisis that has plagued Warsaw since 2021.
We're fully aware that this decision impacts freedom of movement. However, it is the duty of our border service to stop unauthorized and unjustified re-entries of migrants from the German side should they occur. To effectively manage this situation, we must reintroduce border control. There is simply no other option.
Sweden is also reforming its defense posture. According to Reuters, the Swedish military plans to raise the maximum call-up age for former officers as part of a broader effort to expand the size and capabilities of its army, boost air defenses, and increase ammunition stockpiles.
The change, if approved, would mean that former officers aged up to 70 could be recalled to military service in case of need. Sweden has rethought its security doctrine due to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, joining NATO in 2024. Having already doubled defense spending since 2020 to 2.4% of GDP, it has launched a big push that will take it to 3.5% by 2032, from Reuters publication.
According to German Bundeswehr Inspector General Carsten Breuer, Russia may be in a position to attack NATO by 2029. In response, Germany is stepping up its own defense efforts. Berlin has expressed interest in purchasing long-range Typhoon missile systems from the United States, a ground-based launcher system capable of firing a variety of guided missiles at different ranges. Germany's defense minister, Boris Pistorius, explained that while no final decision has been made yet, Germany is considering acquiring this type of weaponry. Reported by Larissa Petruk, UATV News.
As allies step up aid, Ukraine fights with both force and innovation, from cyber strikes to thermal tech. With global pressure on Putin and warnings of future wars, the stakes go far beyond Ukraine. Drop your thoughts in the comments and stay tuned for more right here on The Gaze.